Hello, my name is Jordan Draper and I'm a licensed insurance agent within the state of Texas. I wanted to go over some things about homeowners insurance with you today. Hopefully they'll help you learn a little bit more about what kind of policy you have or what kind of coverages are available to you. Let's start off by talking about what type of form policies you can get in the state of Texas. There's multiple forms that you can get, and there's different types of coverages that come with those forms, but there's two main basic types of policies you can get. To start off with, there's a named perils or a basic policy. In a named perils policy, it's going to list the things that it covers. If it's not listed, then it's not covered. A lot of times a named perils policy will have actual cash value coverage as well. What this means is that if something happens to your home, they're going to pay you out on an actual cash value basis, meaning a depreciated value of whatever the item was that was damaged. The second type of policy is a broad form policy. This is sometimes called an all risk. A lot of times you'll see this as an HO3, an HOB, or an HO5 form on the declarations page or quote that you're looking at. I recommend these types of policies because they have a lot more coverage. On a broad form policy, they're going to list the things that it doesn't cover. You might see things like flooding, acts of war, deterioration over time, which just kind of means you're not taking care of the house. Those are things that would be excluded. Everything else is included. On a broad form policy as well, usually comes with replacement cost. Replacement cost coverage means that if something happens to the home, if it's damaged, they're going to give you what it costs to replace those items minus your deductible versus the actual cash value that we just recently talked about as well. One of the topics that has a lot of confusion around it is the difference between the value of a home and what it costs to replace. The value of the home is how much you're buying it for. It's what someone's willing to pay for it. This takes into account the land, the school district, and the different amenities in the neighborhood. Replacement cost has to do with just the structure itself, the quality of the grade inside the home. So when you're looking at the different types of things like flooring, the type of kitchen, the type of bathrooms, upgrades, and things like that, this can actually increase the value as well as the replacement cost, and a lot of times they're very similar. But depending on where the home is located, especially if you're looking at a lot of times homes that are in downtown areas, the values can be a lot more than the cost to replace. So very specifically, if you're talking about a home that maybe is 2,000 square feet, where in the suburbs might be $200,000, $250,000, might be worth $500,000 or $600,000 in a very high metropolitan area, whereas the replacement cost for it is still only $200,000. Let's also look at the declarations page of the quote that you might have in front of you. On a declarations page or a quote, you're going to have the listed of amounts of coverage you have for your policy. This doesn't mean whether your policy is broad or basic or actual cash value or not. You need to take a look at the endorsements on there to make sure you have those things. These specifically have more to do with how much or what limit of coverage you're going to have. Now let's talk a little bit about the numbers you're seeing on your quote or declarations page. The first number you might look at is the dwelling amount. The dwelling amount is the limit of coverage you're going to have on your policy. On a replacement cost policy, this is what the insurance company feels like it's going to cost to replace it. On an actual cash value policy or a basic policy, this is more has to do with what the home might be worth. The second number you'll see a lot of times is other structures. Other structures are things not attached to the home. This might be a fence, a gazebo, or a shed. A lot of times a garage, if it's attached by a breezeway, would not be considered detached or used for other structures. This would be considered attached and will be considered into your dwelling amount. Contents coverage is coverage for your things inside the home. These are things that you bring with you or take away with you if you bought or sold the house. Usually contents include things like your clothes, your furniture, and your electronics. It's very important to look at a replacement cost policy for your contents because as time goes on, they'll be worth less and less, and it'll be more difficult to purchase them new if you lost them all at one time. An actual cash value policy is going to give you a depreciated amount for those items. And as you know, especially with electronics, as time goes on, that $1,000 TV you bought 2 years later might only get you $200. It'd be very expensive to try to replace those items if you had to do it on your own. Loss of use is a coverage you're going to find on your declarations page as well. Loss of use covers for you if you have to be outside of the home because of a covered loss. It's going to cover the expenses that you incur while being out there. So staying in a home or renting an apartment or renting a hotel while you have to be out of your home is going to be expensive. And your homeowner's insurance will cover that while you're out there. Most home insurance will have a 10 or 20% of whatever the dwelling amount is coverage for loss of use. But some of them do have higher. A lot of times 10 or 20% will be plenty enough if you have to be out for a week or two. But in the case of a total loss, you might be out of your home for 6 months to a year and you'll want more. So you kind of have to take a look and see for you what's best. Liability is a coverage that's going to come into account if somebody gets hurt on your property. So if somebody slips and falls, somebody's working on your roof, kids are climbing over the fence, running through your yard, and they get hurt. Liability is going to cover them to make sure that they don't sue you. Medical payments works in conjunction with liability. A lot of times this has more to do with maybe it's a friend of yours, somebody who's injured on your property, but not necessarily suing you, and you're going to just take care of their medical bills. So let's say they have a deductible of $2,000. You have medical payments on your policy for $5,000. We're just going to take care of their medical, bills, and then that way they're not suing you. Let's take a second to talk about special limits as well. Special limits you'll find out on your quote or declarations page are listing very specific items and how much your insurance company will pay for those specific items. These aren't additions in coverage. In fact, they're actually reductions to your contents amount. What they're stating is the most they're going to pay out for jewelry, watches, and furs are a very specific item, or cameras, or electronics. Now let's talk a little bit about deductibles. Deductible is the amount you're going to pay before the insurance company pays anything. By keeping a lower deductible, your premium will be higher, but you'll have less out of pocket. By having a higher deductible, your premium will go down, but you'll have more to come out of pocket before the insurance company takes care of anything. It's also good to remember that the deductible is a percentage most times, but can be an actual dollar amount, but the percentage is of the dwelling amount, not of the claim. So if you have a $200,000 house and you have a 1% deductible, you'll have a $2,000 deductible, not the amount of the claim. Your home is a valuable asset. It's where your family lives. And I understand most folks want to keep their insurance costs as low as possible. I do as well. But it's important that you have the right kind of policy. It's important that you ask the right kind of questions and think things through. If you'd like to speak to me about some of these different items, I'd love to talk to you about them as well. Please watch the other videos on this website to also learn more about other things in the home buying process. Thank you.